Every Jedi Ever. With my special guest, the Mandalorian's Sun-Hyung Lee, also known as CARSON TEVA. And I surprised him with a 5-hour drawing.
Oh, I did this one.
Oh my god!
I did that. Now you guys know I love Star Wars. You see me draw many Star Wars related artwork in the past, which led to me being invited to Lucasfilm, being on the Star Wars show, drawing a giant mural which represents all 9 episodes of the Skywalker saga. I got to meet so many Star Wars personalities, I got to go to Star Wars Celebration, but today I got to sit down with the star of Kim's Convenience, but we know him as Captain CARSON TEVA from The Mandalorian.
I went over to the Google Doc that you sent me of Every Jedi Ever, and I forgot how many Jedi there are.
Yeah.
Somebody has gone through and named them all, and they all have stories, and they might not be explored yet, but they're there. And so that's for me is just gold.
And with the help of Paul, I am going to draw Every Jedi Ever.
QUINLAN Voss, that's it.
QUINLAN Voss,
You know, and how I love how they'll take these characters and they'll pull the thread and they'll thread them through, and that's what makes it exciting for me. QUINLAN Voss as a tracker, he gets turned to the dark side and then he comes back after. I mean, that's pretty cool stuff too. But again, those are deep dives. You know, ASAJJ Ventress, I love when they introduced her character in the Gennady Tartakovsky version of Clone Wars. I love that because it was just, she came out of nowhere and she was just so scary. You know, it was just like dual wielding red lightsabers, shaved head, you know, the markings on her face, and was just vicious. Like I thought that was fantastic. And some of the other, you know, like Master Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Kit Fisto.
Yes.
I mean, they got wiped out so quick by Darth City. You're like, oh, were the Jedi that powerful? Were they? I mean, they got shot in the back. Yeah. But still, it's like, wow, you didn't even try to block that. But it's plot armor, right? Like they have to be killed really quick. So, but I mean, the Star Wars universe is just rich with possibilities. Yeah, those are, again, you just like, you don't realize how many characters there are and how deep. If you want to go on a particular character, it's fun to see how deep you can go with that.
But you know, like I assume you've been a lifelong Star Wars fan then, right? What was your first memories?
My dad took my sister and I when I was 5 years old to see Star Wars in a movie theater before it was called A New Hope. It was just Star Wars. Star Wars fueled in me the desire to play and recreate. And one of my earlier memories too is of being at summer camp and all the kids recreating that first scene in Star Wars where the stormtroopers are boarding the Tantive 4 and, you know, they're just blowing the rebels away. And we played that all the time. And Star Wars stuck with me, and especially those were the first toys I ever got too. I remember playing with the Kenner action figures.
And now you're part of the lore now too, right? You're in there right now, right?
How surreal is that, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? So I know you probably told the story hundreds of times already, but how did you become part of the universe?
You know, it's so many things had to go right for this to happen. Well, I got invited to this awards gala in Los Angeles called the Unforgettable Gala, and what it was is a celebration of all of Asian Americans in the media. It's like, so we're down there, and I'd never been to LA before, and we're staying at the Beverly Hilton, and they're doing this, and we're rubbing shoulders with like the cast of Fresh Off the Boat, and Min-Na Wang is there, and it's like, oh my, like the who's who of Asian American performers are there. And I'm blown away. I'm like gobsmacked. And while we're there, this woman jumps in front of me and says, "Paul, do you remember who I am?" And it's Deborah Chow.
Okay, wow.
I'm like, yeah, oh my God, of course it's you. Like, of course, I remember you. How are you? Now, Deborah Chow and I worked together back at the Factory Theater in Toronto.
Really?
Yeah, 25 years ago.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
I was fresh out of theater school. I was looking for work. I applied for an arts grant. But the cool thing was I met Deb, and Deb wanted to be a filmmaker. And she said, "Paul, I'm shooting this short film. Do you want to be in it?" I was like, yeah, because I want to be an actor. That's what I went to school for, so let's do it. So we spent the day in Chinatown shooting this thing, and then Deb disappeared. Like, she was gone. My gig ended, she was gone, we didn't stay in touch, and I didn't see her again until she jumps in front of me at the Unforgettable Guy. So, what are you doing here? She's like, oh, I'm in town. I've been wanting to get in touch with you because I'm working on a show called The Mandalorian. And I was like, my knees buckled. I had no idea she was working on it. That is so cool, Deb. And I said, so, but how did you get here? So the short film that she shot with me, and it got her into Columbia Film School. And then she became a filmmaker. She started, directing some shows in Canada, but there weren't as many opportunities here. She went down to the States and started directing shows. And shows like Better Call Saul, Fear the Walking Dead, Jessica Jones, American Horror Story, like little boutique sort of
small shows. Like that.
Nobody's ever heard of them.
Small indie shows.
So she's doing these huge productions, and then so she's doing Mando, and I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. And she said, so Dave Filoni is a big fan of yours from Kim's Convenience, and he wants to write something for you. So I kind of want to get you guys in touch. And I'm blacking out here because it's just like one of my old friends is doing Star Wars, and she's telling me that Dave Filoni, whose work I adore, is a fan of my work, and he's trying to write me something. Come on.
Yeah.
That's what. How does that happen? Like that's Cinderella time, right?
Absolutely.
And I kind of took it with a grain of salt because it's like it's a business, right? And people say all the time, "Hey, I've got something. I'm thinking of you. I'd love to have you in the role and this and that." But things happen, and sometimes studios don't like you, or the timing is no good, or this or that, or you're unavailable, and so it works out. But it was really just nice to be in that conversation. And so I showed Deb when she said, Dave wants to write something for you. I'm a member of the 501st. It's a cosplaying.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And they dress up like Imperial. The Imperials, basically, officers, the stormtroopers, scout troopers, the whole gamut. If it's Empire related, they've got a costume for it. And so I joined them like back in October, and I grabbed Deborah's elbow and I said, you do realize I have like 8 costumes at home that are screen accurate. She's like, what? So I show her the pictures, and she's like, I'm going to send these to Dave. And so she texts them over to Dave, and he responds right away. And he's like, oh my God, these are great. He could just show up. He could just show up in his costumes, right? And so that was hilarious. And then Deb said, well, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, well, I got to fly back home to Toronto. She said, oh, that's too bad. You should come and visit the set, because they're still shooting season 1. Right. And I was like, oh, that sucks. She said, well, you should come back. I said, so if I come back in a couple of weeks, the offer still stands? She's like, yeah. And so I flew home, and I said to my wife, I need to go back. And she was like, you absolutely do. And a couple of weeks later, I flew back, and I visited the set during season 1 of Mandalorian, and I met Dave and Jon Favreau. Wow. I got to see them work. I got to see Deb work. She's fantastic. And then had dinner with Dave and Deb afterwards, and it was just like a nerd's dream come true. Yeah. And the whole time thinking this was amazing. They're not going to write anything for me, but it's really nice to do that. Literally 6 months later, get a call from my agent. She's like, so Lucasfilm called, and they're asking for your availability. Really? I was like, come on, you're kidding me. Right. And so and I had to go down to LA a couple of times because I shot 2 different episodes. Mm-hmm. But that's how it happened. I didn't even have to audition. Wow. Which was really cool. It was just like, here's the part. And it was so funny because I had no idea what the part was. Right. Even I was sure I'd be under 16 pounds of latex or something, right? Like, alien or whatever. Yeah. But the fact that you got to see my face and that I was a rebel pilot was so cool. Yeah, absolutely. And got to work with Carl Weathers directing me, Peyton Reed, who directed Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. And who's they're both fantastic directors, and that was my first US gig. Sorry, I'm actually tearing up a little bit. That's such a cool story, man. Mine were too, man. I cried during my wardrobe fitting. Yeah, man. Dude, I was crying. That is crazy. So, wow, what an experience. But there was a Jedi that I totally forgotten about that I love, and I love this backstory, his story that it explored, and it was number 108 on your list, and it was Kirak Infila. Okay, He was a Jedi. And it's really cool because if anybody's read the Marvel version of the Darth Vader, that was the line. It's still going on right now, and it sort of explores Anakin's journey as a newly minted Dark Lord of the Sith. And he goes out, and this particular storyline involving this Jedi is you'll notice the Sith, they have red lightsabers. They've got this crimson color. And as a lot of nerds know, the color comes from the kyber crystals, which are inside the lightsabers. And that's what powers the lightsabers. But what a lot of people might not know is the Sith, actually, their lightsabers are red because they've taken other kyber crystals from other Jedi and they've corrupted them.
Right.
And the kyber crystals actually bleed and are weeping. And so that's what happens. So you'll take a Jedi, for example, Karak-Infala, he's a Jedi that he survived the Purge because he kind of went into self-exile because he liked to fight. That was his shtick. He loved to fight so much, like he went off on his own to be separate from the other Jedi and to meditate. And, you know, I think one of the promises or the vows that he made was he was not going to come back until he was ready to come back. And Vader was sent out to get his lightsaber. Going deeper than that too, Master Qui-Gon, Liam Neeson just killed it as a Jedi Master who's just a little bit off center. You know, he wasn't quite the Jedi that towed the standard line, and I loved how his outside the box thinking kind of set everything in motion there, and how Obi-Wan sort of learned from those experiences too. So I love that.
Do you think we'll see him again? Do you think we're going to see him?
Master Qui-Gon?
Yeah, you think we're going to see him in the Obi-Wan series? What do you think?
Oh, I'm sure of it. I mean,
Yeah.
he's the one that he teaches Obi-Wan to come back as a force apparition, right? He's the one that teaches him how to do that.
Right.
And that's like in episode 3, that's what Yoda literally says to him. It's like, you got to learn how to do this,
right,
from your master Qui-Gon. You know, we got to talk about Ahsoka Tano.
Oh yes, that's right. Just absolutely,
because,
please.
yeah, she's just, it is, and I love that storyline, that arc, and that for her growing in strength as a Jedi, and then leaving the Jedi Order and questioning her own, like, what the Jedi are doing in her adventures by herself, and then later on being brought back in Rebels as Fulcrum. And then coming back in Mandalorian, it's just, I love that story arc. It's just, I love that she's a part of the Order, but she lives like a Jedi. She's a Ronin, basically, right? Like a masterless samurai. It was interesting to see a CGI Yoda and then switch back to a puppeted Yoda. He is purposefully kept mysterious because that's what George Lucas wanted to do with Yoda. He didn't want anything really written about Yoda's past, or about his planet or his people. People still don't know very much about Yoda's species. There's Yoda, there's Yaddle, who's disappeared.
Yeah, Yaddle's gone.
There's Grogu. And it's like, yeah, my favorite's always, I mean, Obi-Wan Kenobi is still always going to be my favorite. I really love the Ewan McGregor portrayal of the young Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, obviously he was introduced to me when I was 5 as Sir Alec Guinness, who was in his 60s doing that. It's this guy who everybody like to crap all over and think he was crazy, and he's just some crazy old hermit who's actually had such a noble story. I love that. And I'm drawn to characters that are constantly underestimated and rise to the challenge and exceed those expectations.
Okay, so just a couple more. How about Leia? Let's talk a little bit about.
Oh my
Leia.
God, the Forgotten Jedi, and
Yes.
that's the thing, right? Because I know there are comic books devoted to that too, but it's tough to keep track of everything that's been going on. And so her training, because we know Luke started training her after the events of Return of the Jedi. When you watch the sequel trilogy, you see how badass she's gotten. I mean, she defeated Luke in lightsaber combat.
Right.
And you know, when she got blown out into space, she got to Mary Poppins her way back to the ship, right?
Yep.
She embodies that too, right? Like the empathy, the compassion, the wisdom of the Jedi. I mean, and that came from having to be a leader at such a young age. If she'd been trained as a youngling all the way up, would have been like a formidable presence in the Jedi Council.
What about Anakin when it was at the beginning part? Beginning part.
That's it's like you go into the Clone Wars and you see his journey from from the prequel, from a young Padawan into a Jedi Master, and the stuff that he does during the Clone Wars that's filled in during the animated series is fantastic, because you see that growth, you see his leadership grow, you see him take a young Padawan, Ahsoka Tano, under his guidance, and you see that relationship flourish, and it just makes it that much more heartbreaking when he finally does give into the dark side. I mean, that's the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker, of seeing that, and then the redemption of the end of his son, bringing him back. I mean, that's the whole premise of the prequel, basically, is his fall from grace and him coming back, being brought back by Luke Skywalker. So yeah, I mean, Anakin, he was the chosen one. He was the one who was supposed to bring balance back to the Force. And yeah, it's a tale of hubris and misplaced intentions. Yes, Luke Skywalker, and his particular journey from a farm boy who's dreaming of something bigger to becoming a Jedi Master, turning Darth Vader back to Anakin Skywalker, and then seeing all of it crumble again in the sequel trilogies. I mean, that's coming full circle. So yeah, I mean, he will always be one of the preeminent Jedi in all of history. The thing that I love about it the most is it keeps me young. The storytelling, the excitement, holding on to what made me happy as a child keeps me young. And I am in a profession, I'm lucky enough to be in a profession where creativity fuels it, and that passion and desire to keep going.
Okay. Well, speaking of which, would you like to see what I've done so far?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Just so I was able to get a few characters done. Here.
Just a few.
That's
like 100 of them, right?
Sure.
Oh my God!
I did that. I did that particular one here. I guess I'm not sure if you can see it. I can't see my camera.
Dude.
I can't see my camera.
You made me look too heroic, man.
Because you are. You're
sucking my gut in. Look at that.
There you go. There you go.
That's amazing.
There you go. That's for you, my friend.
Oh my God, James.
This is for you. I've been a fan for a long time, and I'm over the moon that I'm able to talk to you today.
Oh, brother, thank you so much. That is incredible. Oh, I love it. Who could not love that? That's amazing. You made me lose 40 pounds.
No, I think that's accurate.
Look at that. That is like the idealized version of me. Those are goals.
Okay, there you go. Before I let you go, could you tell the people where they could find you online and how they could follow you?
Yeah, I am on a bunch of different social media sites. Instagram under Angry Appa, that's ANGRYAPPA. On Twitter, I am at Bitter Asian Dude. On Facebook, I have a fan page, Paul Sun-Hyung Lee. That's my full name. And of course, on YouTube, it's Bitter Asian Dude Inc. You can do the search on once you hit that, and yeah, give my channel a look, because I do dirty things like this.
So before we see the final drawing, I'm going to be on Paul's channel. He's going to interview me. We're going to talk about Star Wars, and you can find it at the link down below. But now's the time. What does this final all Jedi piece look like? Well, we're going to find out. Here it is, drawing every Jedi ever. Special thanks to Paul, and also special thanks to my good friend Thomas Mason for his help with coloring this piece. Make sure you follow him at Mental Studios on Instagram, and to my good friend DrMasaki for editing this video. Please do subscribe to him. The link is down below. But also don't forget to like this video, share this video with all your friends, and don't forget to subscribe, and I will be your friend for life. Who is your favorite Jedi? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you click another one. I draw Grogu for 24 hours. I draw all 8 episodes of The Mandalorian. Don't miss it. Click it right now.